We've got a submission here from LV Sloper, who's just asking for some general suggestions on PIDs. And you've submitted a video and a log. And I'm going to look at the video first because I feel like a lot of insight can be gotten about a copter's flying just by watching a video of it flying. If the video looks good and it feels good to the pilot, then you're probably in the ballpark of correct. And then you can start tweaking and tuning that last little nth percent out of it, right? But if there's anything blatantly wrong, it'll show up in the video. And I've fast forwarded to a little bit of a more active part of your video. Overall, I mean, your tune looks really good. It looks really solid. I don't see any sort of unexpected wobbles or oscillations. It looks really smooth. It looks a tiny bit stiff, which might indicate excess I term, but I think it's more likely that that's just the way you're flying it. I think it feels like you may have your rates a little lower than I might be used to seeing, and it feels like you're also sort of just starting to feel out flying it and still sort of learning to coordinate your turns. Like right here, that was a little uncoordinated, but your yaw stick was centered, and that's probably why. I'm not just picking on your piloting. It could be the case that there's a problem with your yaw I term being excessive. It's causing that. But I think it's actually just, you just sort of still getting a feel for the sticks. But overall, I mean, you really seem to be in the right ballpark. I can see in your log that there's some places where you punch the throttle. We're definitely going to look at those to see if your P terms are approximately right. Uh, but I think it looks like a really good flying copter, and nothing is jumping out at me as wrong. So let's take a look over at your log then. And here I've got the gyro and PID for pitch and roll up because that's where I think we should start, since that's where your question is. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to just move ahead to an area. Here is a place where looks like you peg the throttle, and I think that there we go. So if there's any bad tendencies, that'll probably make it come out. And I don't see. So I see oscillation on roll, and that's pretty normal to see, right? Because roll is usually a little more dynamic than pitch on a mini quad. I assume we're looking at a mini quad. I could be wrong. Um, it does look like you could use a little more filtering on your D term. Whether you feel like it's important to take that recommendation depends a lot on how happy you are with the flight characteristics. I didn't see any evidence of noise, any sort of odd little wobbles or vibrations or bobbles. So, if you're happy with it and it flies good, don't worry about it. But you might try lowering your D-term cut hertz a little bit. On pitch, there is basically no oscillation, even at the high throttle. Um, Obviously, the P term is never going to be a straight line like the I term is, because that's just the way the P term works. But even at this high throttle, you're barely seeing anything. So I feel like your P term is not is if you feel like it's responsive enough, it doesn't need to go any higher, and it's not too high. So I think you're in the ballpark. It may be the case that your D term could stand to be lowered, and I am a little concerned about the noise that we're seeing here. It's only at certain throttle positions. It's normal for there to be certain throttle positions that are much noisier than others. That's either has to do with a sort of a resonant frequency of the frame of the copter, or sometimes the ESC will have certain frequencies, certain motor RPMs at which it will create excess vibration. That's one reason that BL Heli 14 added the dither, which is supposed to help address that um, by sort of adding some noise to the throttle signal intentionally to prevent it from just sitting at one throttle position that is vibrating. I would like to look at your gyros by themselves, so let's do that. And let's zoom all the way out. So yeah, So your gyros look pretty noisy, especially your pitch gyro. That doesn't mean anything that your pitch gyro looks noisier than your roll. It's just how the vibrations are manifesting on your copter. It is a little unusual. Pitch is usually the less vibration than yaw because pitch on the copter's frame is more damped because the weight is more spread out on the pitch axis and more centralized on the roll axis. That's not true for every copter, but it's true for a lot of the mini quads that we commonly see flying. So the pitch axis especially looks pretty noisy. Again, if you're happy with the way it flies, then don't change a thing. But I definitely think you might benefit from lowering. If you're at gyro LPF equals 256, lower it to 188. And if you're at gyro cut hertz 100, lower it to lower it to 60, and see if that makes it fly better for you. Better or worse. It's just like being at the optometrist. But overall, and if you've been following along, this is a way noisier than a lot of the copters we've seen. It makes me wonder what your filtering is at. And I don't think you posted no, you didn't post a config dump, so I can't say for sure. But yeah, it makes, if you're already filtered down, if you're already at gyro cut hertz equals 60 and gyro LPF equals 188, then it makes me wonder if you've got something creating extra noise, like a motor bearing that may be starting to go, or a prop that's particularly off balance. I don't know. But if you're not already filtered down to that point, try just don't dilly dally. Don't like go by half measures. Just take it down to that point. Um, Gyro cut hertz 60, gyro LPF 188, and see if you like the way it feels. And if you do like the way it feels, then maybe try to work it up a little bit. Try and raise those numbers, or just leave it alone. I don't think we need to overthink this. I don't think that I don't think that the gyro filtering is such a fine-tuned instrument that we're going to notice a huge difference between gyro cut 60 and gyro cut 80 or gyro cut 100 if you don't have noise, right? Assuming that you're not getting visible effects of noise like little twitches in your copter. If you're getting the twitches, then obviously you'll notice a difference when you finally get it low enough that they go away. But once they're gone, I think that there's a relatively wide range of acceptable values that will feel okay or feel good. Anyway, so that's my thoughts. I don't think I'm going to be able to tell you a lot about yaw just by looking at the traces. And the reason is that yaw has so much to do with feel. I will tell you this. Your D on yaw is, I think it's pretty good. I don't think that yaw needs as much D term gain as pitch and roll, because the copter doesn't have as much authority on yaw, and so basically the P term can sort of swing around like crazy in a way that would be really destabilizing on pitch and roll without having too much of a negative effect on yaw. Obviously there's a limit, and that's why we have the P term jump, the yaw jump prevention, and the P term limit factors. But I don't think we need as much D on yaw as we do on pitch and roll to get good performance. So the fact that your D term on yaw is so much smaller than your P, I'm not too worried about. We are seeing a lot of noise getting in. Again, a suggestion that probably we could do with a little more filtering. So yeah, I would say a little more filtering, depending on where you're at. If you're already at a point where you've got sort of enough filtering for most copters and it still looks like this, then maybe look for sources of vibration. But gyro LPF 188, gyro cut hertz 60, and D term cut hertz 3 steps down from wherever you're at, but not lower than 8, I would say. That's just pulling those numbers out of my butt. That's what I think. As far as your eye term goes, your flight video looks good. Your eye gains probably are about right. I didn't see anything untoward. Look for stability when you do a strong punch out, and that'll be a good indicator. But it looked good from your flight video. Your D on pitch and roll from your flight performance looked fine. You had 0 bounce back, and it didn't see any effect of noise, which is what would be the result of excess D. So I think D is, if I'm just looking at the traces, D on pitch and roll looks a little high, But if I'm looking at the flight, I don't think it matters, and I'm just nitpicking. So don't worry about that. And P on pitch and roll also looks pretty good. It looks fine. So I think you could if you like how it flies, leave it. If you think it might feel a little more responsive, try raising it a little, but watch for creeping signs of excess P. Watch for oscillations starting to come in, especially in extreme flight modes like high throttle skidding turns. Okay. Hope that was helpful and happy flying.